am I getting outside of my comfort zone? Am I letting fear run the show? Am I experimenting with my life?
I also want to tell myself that it's okay
Yeah.
to pursue those peak experiences.
Yeah.
And to recognize that we have so much freedom in this world.
Yeah.
We have near infinite possibility. I mean, we can just go anywhere, do anything, speak to almost anyone.
It takes a little bit of inner awareness to recognize, yeah, there is fear in that, in really living with like palms wide open, like this adventure mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Finding Simple Abundance podcast with Adam and Maggie. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Adam.
And today we are diving into our fifth pillar of our simple framework. And it is to live dynamically. So it's the L in simple. And that's going to be our topic for today, is to live dynamically, why that matters to us, why we made that our fifth pillar. And we'll go in depth about, things we've learned, experiences we've had. And if you could just give a quick rundown, Adam, on our simple framework.
Yes.
What each letter stands for and the pillar of each one.
Of each one.
Love it.
Perfect. So yes, the simple framework is basically our framework for how we wanted to show up in the world. It gave us a simple phrase that we could use to remind ourselves what are the things that we want to incorporate in our lives, to focus on in order to show up in the way that we really wanted to, as we are interacting with our family, with our friends, with ourselves, and with our community and with the broader world around us.
One quick thing, like another way, as we've been moving through this framework, another way that I have started to think about it too is that like these are these pillars these are the big yeses in our life.
Oh.
And so these are the things that we want to say yes to and that we want more of, so that we can kind of determine like what are the things that we say no to, and that if we hold these as truths, as pillars, as the yeses in our life, it makes it easier to make decisions and move through life.
Yeah, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That sounds familiar.
You're so funny.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
So the pillars themselves are S for seek vitality, I is inner awareness, M is meaningful relationships, P is pursue creativity, what we talked about last week, L is live dynamically, and E is embrace thriving. Yeah. And each one of those has a whole myriad of subtopics or ideas associated with it. But like you said, that's kind of our heuristic to what are we saying yes to? What are we saying no to? And when we look at it through these lenses, we can just say like, what pillars do these check off? So with live dynamically, it's one of my favorites. It's the one I kind of it doesn't like jump out to me as much as the other ones, but it's because of that like subtlety is actually my favorite.
Yeah.
Because live dynamically is essentially, we had this desire to live lives that weren't mundane, that weren't humdrum, that weren't just you wake up in the morning, you do the same things, you check the boxes and you go to sleep. But really to try and recognize that there's a whole dynamic range of highs and lows and everything in between, that it makes a life more meaningful, more robust, more epic.
Yeah.
Colorful.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so thinking about the dynamic range of life, how can we live in a sense of not just focusing on the middle?
Yeah.
But focusing on, what are some of those peak experiences? But what are also some of the challenges of life? And how can we put ourselves in position to experience that broad range of emotion and experience and opportunities? And just to kind of go from there. So live dynamically is one of my favorites.
I love it. Yeah. And I think that was something that drew us to each other. Like when we first started dating and whatever, I think we both saw it in each other that we didn't really, we didn't want to just like get stuck in this like middle class 9 to 5 sort of mentality. You know what I mean? Like we were just like, I want to live a really cool life. And honestly, like that's kind of just the heart of this pillar, is like, I just want to live a really cool life that's not boring, and that I don't just like get stuck in it. I think it's so easy to just get stuck in the routine and the grind and the day to day. And so it's kind of like our to check ourselves, to be like, hey, are you living the way that you want to live? Are you showing up and like doing things that are gonna create these peak experiences in life? that ultimately those are the things that really grow us.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, and some of that is actually pursuing those epic experiences, those awesome experiences. But some of it also is just recognizing the beauty and wonder that is in the everyday life. So we don't need to go skydiving every single day in order to have a dynamic life.
Yeah.
But what we do need to do is live in a state of awareness and recognize that the mundane can be dynamic if you look for the subtlety, if you notice the way in which, I don't know, life is just more full when you're present.
Yeah. And just like each one of these pillars, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, they're reminders for us to embody that mindset of, you know, looking for those things where even just, you know, playing a board game or going on a walk as a family, like just those mundane things can become really epic if we decide to make them.
And sometimes you can actually make them epic.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll go on a family walk and it could be just as straightforward as like we're just walking
Like
as a
just
family.
to get out or whatever.
But then you just start to recognize you can make it really fun. You can do, you know, weird squirrely games. You can, you know, have a phone call with someone who you haven't talked with in a long time. Like you can just take opportunities to make your life more dynamic. And in the newsletter that we're talking about this week, one of the things that I loved about what you were writing was we can put ourselves in positions, in situations where our life is more dynamic by trying new things, right? Putting yourself into a situation where you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
Where you are in discomfort, you know? So whether that's, you know, signing up for a 5K or what was the other examples, you know, signing up for that art class.
Or like asking somebody out for coffee who you kind of admire, but you're like a little bit scared.
Yeah.
I think like that is, to me, I think living a dynamic life, it really, that's why that was my first thing that I kind of came to was, man, to live a dynamic life, it really does take us getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because so many of the things that, like the beautiful things that come from life are when you really like look back and peel the layers off, you're like, oh, it started because I did something that was just like a little bit outside of my range of comfort.
Yeah.
And then all these beautiful things happened afterwards. So I think that is a really good thing to recognize and to be aware of. And then to always be kind of checking yourself, like, am I doing things that are uncomfortable, or am I just trying to kind of create my own little comfort bubble? Or am I doing something this week that's like kind of getting me outside of that?
Yeah.
You know, that like I'm a little nervous about, or I'm a little bit like fearful of. And sometimes that is even with like social interactions, you know? So,
well, and one of the things, you know, I guess I do like to say, you know, you can find that dynamism, living dynamic in like the mundane and the normal by being aware. And I think that's really important because you can't always live in those peak experiences. But I also want to tell myself that it's okay to pursue those peak experiences.
Yeah.
And to recognize that we have so much freedom in this world.
Yeah.
We have near infinite possibility. I mean, we can just go anywhere, do anything, speak to almost anyone.
I know.
And just have crazy experiences.
Yeah.
And I want to accept that. I want to say, yeah. If we wanted to get on a plane right now and fly to Dubai,
we could.
We could.
Yeah.
And then like look around and then get back on the plane and come home.
I know.
You know?
Yeah.
I use that as an example, just thinking of like, what's the most extreme, you know, what's an extreme thing that you could do? Now, is that a prudent use of our finances? No.
But just how much freedom you kind of have.
We get blinders in the life that we live and think, oh, this is just the way things are. And so this is just the way things are.
Yeah.
And so I have to kind of keep doing it. Right. So when I think through our decision to leave the solar company that we were part of, it was kind of striking to, you know, the other owners and even to ourselves to say, we are in a really comfortable position where we had everything that we really needed. We had kind of checked the boxes of what, you know, modern success looks like in terms of like a stable 9-to-5 with like a decent salary and, you know, prospects and everything like that.
Yeah.
But we were like, well, we kind of want something more dynamic, something more with a broader range of possibility.
Yeah.
And so we said, okay, let's create our exit strategy, and then let's dive into this new world of, building an internet-based business and learning that, and learning how to connect at scale and, build content and create, video and write and those kind of things, which is definitely dynamic in terms that there are some very significant lows. But there also is an opportunity for even more of those peak experiences as we're building this opportunity for a location and time independent income.
Yeah.
And just recognizing that like we have the opportunity to go anywhere and do anything. Go ahead.
And as you were talking, I was kind of just thinking about how all of the pillars up until now, we've talked about this before, how they kind of build upon each other. And I think one thing that living a dynamic life, it calls upon us to really rise to the occasion too, because it does take that inner awareness. There's a piece in there, I think, that in order to, have meaningful relationships and then look for dynamic ways of living, it takes a little bit of inner awareness to recognize, there is fear in that, in really living with like palms wide open, like this adventure mindset where it's like, bring on the good, bring on the challenging, and to recognize and remind yourself like, it's okay to be afraid, but to do it anyway. And to hold that with you as you're like, but I'm not going to let fear run the show. Like more than kind of like, like not doing something because you're afraid. It's like living a dynamic life means more to me than my comfort in that situation. You know what I mean? And to kind of like rise to this another way of living that I recognize the strength in me. Like I'm a strong person. Like the challenges will come and I'll be able to get through them.
Yeah.
But it matters to me to live a dynamic life. So anyway, I just think that's really cool. And so in the newsletter, it's like, we really want to, first of all, notice that there's a piece of discomfort and moving past that, and then just experimenting.
Yes.
And then not just experimenting, but experimenting with awareness and with reflection, to be able to like experiment with life and watch yourself do it and assess and reflect on it and be like, did that work? Did I like it? Did I not? Whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
How did it feel?
Yeah. Right. And I think that is kind of the roadmap then to living a more dynamic life, and one where you're not just waking up and being like, oh my gosh, where did my life go? You know?
And one of the words that always comes to mind when I think about this idea of, well, the whole simple framework, but then also living dynamically in particular, is this opportunity for manifestation, like to create something from nothing. That's what we're doing right now. Like no one gave us permission to sit down and, record this.
Yeah.
Like we just bought a camera and some microphones and we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like there's this mindset where you can recognize that we can manifest the world and the life that we want to.
Yeah.
And to not just accept life as it's happening. But to be present, yes. But to say, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
And then what steps can I take to get me there?
Yeah.
And then just to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's what I think is so cool.
Yeah.
And again, it's so funny as you start to learn all these different concepts, everything starts to like connect together.
Yeah.
Because then that brings me right back to like playing infinite games.
Yeah.
So there's this concept of finite versus infinite games.
Yeah.
And finite games have like structure in terms of like the rules. They have a definitive beginning and an end. And then they have winners. Like, did you win the game or did you not? So chess, football, soccer, those are finite games. Like you start out, they've all got rules. Everyone knows the rules. Everyone's aware of, the pitch or the board or wherever that's like the constraining the game. And then there are infinite games where the only goal of an infinite game is to continue playing the game.
Yeah.
Right. And so business is an infinite game. Marriage is an infinite game. Like I can't win this marriage on any given day.
I win every day.
I win every day. But what I can do is I can, continue to play the game. I can continue to build on our relationship and make it more dynamic and make it more interesting and make it more intimate and meaningful.
Yeah.
And that is the goal. The goal is to continue playing the game of marriage. Same thing with business and with life. I mean, that's what's so cool is like we have like infinite possibility to move in all different directions because there is no constraining board to this game. It's just how you want to play. And if we recognize that we're playing an infinite game, it just unlocks a little bit more, I don't know, kind of like ease or playfulness,
Right.
and creativity in that process. And so, I just think about living this dynamic life as recognizing that we have the ability to move not only on the Z or not on X and Y axis, but like in the Z axis. Like we can change, like we can move in all 3-dimensional space however we want as we're moving through the world. I don't know. Some of my analogies just get kind of weird and squirrely.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, and I think it's cool because I think that living dynamically, it can mean different things for different people. And I think that's what's really cool about it too. And it can mean different things at different points in our lives as well. And so that's why it's always a really fun kind of questioning for ourselves of, am I getting outside of my comfort zone? Am I letting fear run the show? Am I experimenting with my life? Or am I just okay with how it is? And is that okay with me, Or is it not okay with me? Do I want to experiment more? Do I have some sort of like gnawing feeling that like, no, I want to discover more things. I want to have more interesting experiences, And then am I making steps to make that happen? And I think those are all just good questions. And I think that's why that the pillar of live dynamically is such a good one because there's not some like perfect answer for what a dynamic life should look like. It's kind of whatever you want it to be in that chapter of life, but yet it's still such a good thing to be asking ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
To ask on a consistent basis.
Yeah, right.
Like, is today a dynamic day? Or what can I do today to make it, more dynamic?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just recognizing what cool things that are happening. Yeah. And sometimes it's, I'm going to actually, that, especially when we have like I really want to do that. You get that sense of fear and you're like, it's like, oh, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah.
Listen to that voice and say, oh, this is on the edge of my comfort.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
And that's what comfort really is. Like it's an ever expanding bubble of comfort. It's your comfort zone. We call it that. And so if you're constantly pushing yourself on the outside of that comfort zone, your capacity expands to encompass that new whatever activity or lifestyle or skill set or whatever it is. And so if we're always looking for opportunities to push ourselves on the outside of there, and if you think about it, you can grow capacity really quickly.
Oh, I know.
Like you can make some big asks of some like really big people.
Right.
And people will say yes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you went from here to, massive really quickly. Right. Or, one of the fastest ways that I found to learn a new skill is to go have someone hire me to do that skill.
Yeah.
Because now I've got no choice but to sink or swim and like get after it. Yeah. And then if you start to think about it, it's like, well, you don't want to, do bad work and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, then you just refund the money, or learn it. It's, again, we just don't like, we're too quick to put ourselves into like a negative box and say like, I just can't make that work.
Yeah.
And it's like, try it.
Yeah.
First off, you'll probably be just fine. Worst case scenario, you do a bunch of work for free and pay their money back. It's like, it's not the end of the world.
And you've learned new skills.
And you've learned new skills all along the way and built probably a great friend who is now really excited about this new thing that you're doing as well.
I know.
And so, put yourself out there, like get on the edge of your comfort zone and just do something
and see
really
what
fun.
happens.
Yeah.
I think another piece of living dynamically is that it's never done. So it's always just sort of this thing where it's like, it doesn't necessarily matter what the past is. It's always this constant question of, am I doing it today? You know? And yeah, like kind of like you said with the, how we're always expanding. Our capacity is always expanding. Our experiences are always expanding. And I always kind of just believe that there's no such thing as regression, you know? And so we're always stacking skills or expanding or becoming, we're always growing. And so, yeah, it's cool to see how one experience, but having it later in life, you know, how you move through it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like even with having another kid.
Yeah.
Like we always joke, we're like, is she easier or are we just different?
Yeah. So I guess for context, we have you know, an older son.
Yeah.
Who just turned 8.
Yeah.
And he was a great baby.
So good.
And
we were a little nervous.
Yeah, we did not want to have another kid because we're like, well, you hit the jackpot. Like, why would you roll the dice again?
Right.
Know, kind of thing.
Right.
But then we had Eva, and lo and behold, she's even easier. And so the question is she easier, or are we just more dynamic, and has our capacity grown to be able to handle what was really challenging previously, and now feels easier?
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
You know, luckily our son is also a great helper, so that's a big part of it.
So cool. But yeah, it's cool because I just think that it's good to recognize that it's never done. We can we're always asking that question of,
we're always playing that infinite game, Maggie.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
That's cool. So I guess
so cool.
Maybe like let's we, you know, because Eva is going to wake up here soon. Maybe we can play a bit of a.
Hi, honey.
Oh, she's waking up.
Her crazy hair. She's looking at the lights.
Let's say we made a quick cut here.
Yeah.
What would you want to do? Do you want to kind of wrap it up? Do you want to? Yeah, let's just wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I think
I was
we're
going to play a bit of a
combo.
game, but then we'll.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so our baby Eva is waking up. So we are going to wrap this one up. I appreciate all of your patience as it took us a little bit to get this episode out.
Yeah.
Maggie and I were on death's doorstep the past couple weeks. And, you know, with the holidays and everything, it was a lot. But here we are. We're back and
playing an infinite game.
Playing an infinite game. So we're just going to show up week in, week out. Yeah. And one of the things that would actually mean a lot to us is if you were to, in whatever way you can, so comment on like YouTube or send us an email, go to adamandmaggie.com. You can get our contact information there, sign up for our newsletter, but then like respond back to us. Like, let us know. One of the things that I love about
from you guys.
It's so much fun.
So fun.
One of the things I love more than anything is getting feedback, and not just about the things that we're doing, but the things that you guys are doing, and how, you know, either we're involved in that or even not. Just, you know, I just love hearing that and recognizing that for each one piece of content that we put out, the leverage behind it is that a lot of people can see that one piece, but then that a lot of people then have the opportunity to kind of funnel that information back to us. So that's a long way of saying it would mean so much to us if you reached out in some shape or fashion, just because we love it so much and we love to hear your guys' stories.
So cool.
So do that. If you're not signed up to the newsletter, definitely check it out, adamandmaggie.com. If you are signed up to the newsletter, thank you, and we'll keep those coming. And then this is your reminder.
Yeah.
Live a dynamic life.
Yeah.
Live
dynamically. And then we'll see you next week for our last pillar, our 6th pillar, which is embrace thriving.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. I'm so excited. Okay.
So cool.
Well, Maggie, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you.
Eva, thanks for sleeping through most of it. Not all of it, but most. That's okay.
She's like, yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, right.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.